What's going on, everybody? Locked on Badgers. We got so much to talk about today. We got Justin coming in, Rajiv, a bunch of comments. Wisconsin beats Marquette. Obviously, big basketball in-state rivalry. That's big news. But the big news of the day is still Jim Leonhard. I want to talk more about what it means and get the perspective of some other people as we continue just kind of reforging this coaching staff on the football side. So that's what we're going to talk about today's Locked on Badgers. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's go.
You are Locked on Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked on Badgers, your team every day. Here for you every day. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. I want to always reiterate that. It means a lot to me. And big news, today's show is, let's start here. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this year with all the props, lines, spreads, more than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And then let's get into this. So we have a ton to talk about today. We're going to bring Rajiv, Justin in. We're going to talk Jim Leonhard. We're going to talk Wisconsin Marquette. And we're going to have some fun with it. Plus, we got a bunch of comments we're going to get to. This has been an enormous news day for Wisconsin. So I already did a quick reaction show to Jim Leonhard. I wanted to get you guys on to get your perspective on this and what you thought. So I'm just going to kick it. Let's start with Justin. Already looks like he's about to start talking. So let's get to Justin.
No, real quick, what I was going to say is this not the most craziness that we've ever had going on with Wisconsin sports at one point in time ever? The women's volleyball team is going on to the Sweet 16. Basketball is going on and playing really well. And football has got like a nuclear warhead just went off and it's blowing up into 15 different directions.
Like what would be comparable? Would it be Brett Bielema leaving after a Big Ten title game in the middle of the night to Arkansas? And then what else was going on at that time? Because that was crazy.
We would have had basketball going on. I don't know if the women's volleyball team was to this extent at that point in time quite yet. They weren't. Were they a national title type team? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Women's hockey was probably good, but I don't know if they were a national title team.
I still think when we think about the big moments, you have to go back to 2015. You know, we're playing the national championship game against Duke. To me, that's like where the precipice of our athletics were really. You know,
what could have been? How does that change everything for Wisconsin if they win that title?
Seriously, I still have
20 minutes of basketball.
I still have nightmares about being up 9, and then here comes the 3-pointer.
Remains the most painful. I did a show on the most painful Badgers losses. Rajiv, I don't know if you were really involved in the show then. The most painful Badger losses in my fandom history. And I mean, that is far and away number one.
I learned a valuable lesson that night, which was that you can use a stiff arm on the way to the rim without getting it called if you're Grayson Allen.
Still salty. I love it.
Grayson Allen can do
he was
no
like
wrong,
this apparently. The whole time. He's arm barring guys off. Like, come on, seriously.
I love it. I love that he's still salty. I mean, that game,
and he's on the Bucks, and I still don't like him.
That game hurt me in ways that I still can't fully comprehend.
Yeah. I think I stood on my patio for like an hour and didn't talk to anyone. Didn't want anyone to talk to me. I was like, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone.
Oh, because we called it at halftime when we heard that that Coach K was talking to the refs. I'm like, this is where it all turns. He wasn't happy with the way the first half was called, even though Wisconsin wasn't fouling. All right, let's get moving here.
Positive news of today.
And because listen, we could do a whole show on this, and here comes Badger and Bournemouth and a bunch of other people. Duke game was the worst I ever felt after a game. Yes, 100%, my friend.
The Hail Mary against Michigan.
That was number
State.
No, that was number 2 for me. That one hurt incredibly bad, but it wasn't playing for a natty, right? No. Like we were playing for a natty, and we just came off beating an undefeated Kentucky team.
And we were a better team. We were better than Duke. We were the best team in the country. Absolutely.
Yeah, we lost to them earlier in that game, didn't we? Or earlier that season, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know if we were better or not. I would say this though. I don't want to get too far off this because we're already kind of halfway through our first segment. But that one hurts so bad. All right, let's get to Leonhard. So I talked about it. I talked about why I think it's incredible, why I think it's a home run, why I don't have literally any concerns. But that was my take earlier on. I want to get to y'all. Let's kick it to Justin. Jim Leonhard coming back. Where are you at? Big thoughts. Let's go.
I want to believe that there won't be any concerns, and I don't think there will. I think there is a chance that what happens with this circumstances are if this team sees some adversity, that this could be this is why we wanted Jim situation. Now, it's on Jim at that point in time to be like, hey, we need to follow this man if this is the way we're going to do it. Like a lot of it can be taken care of simply by by him shutting that door. So I think that he's professional enough that I don't see that happening. I also think that he can see the upside in this situation that he's currently going through with, being under Fickell for a few years and learning a lot about what it takes to run a program. Let's be honest here. Paul Chryst is not the guy that's going to teach you how to run a high-level college football team and maximize every portion of it. So, there's a lot of good that can come out of this.
Wow. Sorry, let's go back to here. My bad. I was trying to emphasize solo.
Yeah, we don't need to be seeing me that up.
I was like, Justin's beard is way too close for my liking.
Yeah, that's a lot lot Justin.
It needs to be trimmed.
Rajiv, where are you at on this one?
Yeah, so very similar to what Justin said. I think first of all, if we all agree that the one thing we loved about our team was the defense, right? Everyone knows that. So it's nice to see it. And we also said recently that that's the one thing we don't really want tinkered with. Well, now it doesn't have to get tinkered with, except potential positive changes that, of course, any defense still needs, and we still need. It sends a huge message to the locker room. I think that Jim Leonhard saying, look, I'm behind this guy, because they had to have had a lot of discussions, right? A lot. When you're going to take the guy who thought he was going to get the job, the interim head coach, and then you keep him on, that means they talked a lot, which is a positive thing. I agree. My biggest concern, like Justin said, is, if there is adversity, if there's a little bit of if they have to pick sides, if these are kids, right? They're 18 to 22 years old. They're not the most mature minds out there. So you got to think about how are they going to react when things get a little tough? If there's a disagreement, or things like that. I don't want there can only be one chief, and that chief is Luke Fickell, and that's how it must be. And like I said, I'm sure the conversations happen. So that's my only little concern, but agreed, it's probably not going to be a problem. Yeah. On the good side of things, come on, Jim Leonhard we love Jim Leonhard. He's been a fantastic defensive coordinator for us. So it's going to be awesome to have him there. And now you can take what Jim Leonhard's defense is, throw in some of those wrinkles with Tressel coming here, not really sure what his role is going to be, but with him coming here, the 3-3-5, we could actually make this a killer defense if you combine a little of Jim Leonhard's philosophy and Luke Fickell and Tressel's philosophy. So I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this. And really, I think it sends the message that we are a united front, that locker room can be united, and we can do that much better with Jim Leonhard on our staff.
Really quick, I just want to throw one thing out that I don't know if you guys heard my take on this or not. I thought originally I agreed with both your takes on this, that could create some issues. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized if the players see Jim Leonhard buying into Luke Fickell, and Rajiv, this is kind of what you were saying too. Like, the players have been so frustrated. And what did they said? By the way, what did the players say? They said, as long as Jim Leonhard's here, I'm okay. They didn't say, they did say head coach, but that's because that was the assumed path. But now Jim Leonhard is still here. So the part of the culture that we love is still here, and everything around it gets upgraded. Meanwhile, the players can rest easy because that guy, that lighthouse in the locker room is still there. And now he believes in Luke Fickell. I think that makes their buy-in even easier. Whereas if Jim Leonhard leaves, now they have to kind of buy into all brand new. Now they don't have to buy into all brand new.
Yeah, in that regard, yeah, they have a friendly face that they know. But there's going to be a lot of position coaches that are going to be turned over here. I think we know that it's very unlikely. We've all discussed how much we'd like to see Bobby April come in, who's probably their 1+ recruiter on the entire staff. And I just don't know if that's going to be feasible numbers wise looking forward. Guys like Ross Kalaji and stuff like that probably aren't going to be coming back. And Ross did an admirable job, but I think there was also a very good defensive line coach with Cincinnati too. So, I think you have to look at that. They've been one of the top defenses. So we're going to get into a numbers crunch here real quick with what we're looking at now, because we know Mike Brown's coming over. We know Tressel's coming over. We know who is the other defensive.
The safeties coach. Oh,
yeah.
Starts with an H. I'm
Herschel. Herschel? Was it Herschel?
I'll find it.
Hartschl, I think.
I'll find it. It starts with an H.
What do you guys think is the biggest motivation behind this? Obviously, it's Jim Leonhard. We know is a great defensive coordinator. That's fantastic. But he was successful at Cincinnati without Jim Leonhard. Now he Is it, do you think it's mainly because it will provide that stability with the players, maybe trying to protect some of the recruits, protect some of the players that we currently have? Or do you feel like it's really more about the fact that he believes Jim Leonhard provides the best possible defense, or maybe a combo of both? I'm just curious as to your guys'
I think that he looks at it and says, Jim has an incredibly gifted defensive mind. And I think he's a guy who is very big on the analytical view of defense in general. Like if you looked at the way he talked about the video of him discussing his defenses over the years, and how they worked to self-scout and adjust to the teams that they had trouble with the prior season. And I can see where that's kind of a kindred spirit to Leonhard, because I could see them kind of working on that together and being like, hey, what do you think? What do you think if we did this kind of thing? I think they're the type of guys that, like, from a defensive, like DC porn, would be those guys sitting in a room together, kind of talking and just going back and forth and talking scenarios together.
Mm-hmm. I think it's as simple as, and I'm mostly with Justin here, I think it's as simple as Fickell saying, this guy's an incredible defensive coordinator. Yeah. Let's get better on the staff. I really don't think Fickell's going to win over the locker room. Like, that some players would leave, but I don't think that's the primary concern. I think it helps, but I think it's as simple as, this guy's a brilliant defensive coordinator, and if we can get him on the staff and still get Tressel, let's do it. And let's do it. And we had a comment here really quick. I just want to point it out. Our defensive staff from Mason Sinalsa might be one of the best in the country.
Fickell, Leonhard, Tressel, it could very well be the best in the country.
And think about the fact that, sorry, Justin, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, I mean, I wasn't going to really elaborate too much more on it, but if you look at it, you're putting a top 2 or 3 defensive coordinator with some other guys who are on a very, very good defense already at Cincinnati. And there's some things there that if they can mix and match and put this together, like, you can really maximize what Jim Leonhard's scheme was. Like, from a cornerback standpoint, Cincinnati was better at getting corner talent, secondary talent. So there's a lot to be said here about where the talent level of this defense can go.
That is exactly what I was going to point out. The cornerbacks. I mean, not only do they get better players, they actually have a scheme that really pushes their cornerbacks.
Yeah, they're very aggressive at corner.
5 quarterback system. They're very aggressive. Exactly. They're pressing up. So you combine that, and if you look at Jim Leonhard's defenses, the linebackers have always been the strong suit there. Not that our defensive backs are poor, but there is room for improvement there. You combine that together, you could have a stellar system. That's, I mean, think about it. They're going to be creating these things, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, the brain power in our coaching staff right now is incredible.
How about in the course of one football year, like, we've gone from Paul Christ and Jim Leonhard to Luke Fickell and Jim Leonhard. It's just,
we went from like a 1986 Honda Civic to like now we have like a Jaguar that we just are hopping into.
It's
there isn't a fan on this country that a Badger fan that wouldn't say, all right, well, you get to keep Jim Leonhard and you get Luke Fickell as your new head coach, and you remove Paul Christ.
It's incredible.
I mean,
it's a home run. All right, let's put a bow on that one quick, because we do got to get into Marquette, Wisconsin. We want to get into Marquette, Wisconsin. That's a gigantic rivalry game, obviously. It just happened. We're going to talk a ton more Jim Leonhard, defensive staff, Luke Fickell, football. And we got a bunch of comments about it. So we're going to get
a whole offseason to go into.
Yeah, and we got a lot to go and a bunch of comments to get into with that. But I definitely want to get into this basketball game. This basketball game was awesome, filled with kind of twists and turns, and Chucky Hepburn had a great game. So we're going to get into that next on Locked On Badgers. So stick around. And then we're going to get into all your comments in the last segment, because we definitely want to engage with what you guys are saying as well. All of that and more on today's Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you once again by our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline remains the number one source for all your sports betting needs and information. I keep saying it. I think Justin's on board with the Suns winning the finals. He's muted right now, so he can't say anything, but I think he is. And if you want to make a little change, put some money in your pocket, Suns finals, Niners Super Bowl, BetOnline is a great way to do those futures. Whatever your futures are, whatever you believe in, BetOnline is a great place to do it. All the latest lines, wagers, and you can do live Vegas games as well, blackjack, roulette, plus all the sports are covered there. So you want to bet on racing, golf, NASCAR, esports, UFC, golf, baseball, basketball. It's all there on BetOnline. Friends of ours have been really supporting the show for a long time. So go check them out. Grab your mobile device, head to the website today, learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone tuning into the show. Let's get Rajiv and Justin back in, and we're going to take a bunch of comments. But first, we're going to talk Marquette, Wisconsin. Wisconsin wins 80-77 in overtime. Really gutty game. gentlemen, let's kick it to Rajiv to start this segment. What are your big takeaways here from this really big one?
Yeah, a win is a win. We love that, and kind of like we mentioned on the last show that we had after the game that we just lost, Wake Forest game. Win here and there, win 3-point win, 3-point loss. Basically, it's kind of the same thing. But so there's good and bad in this game. But it's kind of a big picture thing, and the announcers mentioned it. Boy, our schedule has been pretty rough to start this year, and we have been battle tested now. I mean, we've played Kansas and Dayton and Wake and USC. And I mean, that's a very good schedule. And what we've proven is that we're going to be in every single game, right? Our defense is there where we have people that can shoot. When they shoot well, we're going to be in any game that we play. Obviously, Chucky Hepburn tonight, my goodness, the guy shot 100% in the first half. And then the first play, the second half, he goes down, which is just brutal for us. Big change in the game, obviously, at that point. I mean, we were under pressure. It was a constant, slowly cutting into our lead. But a couple players I just want to mention, obviously, Klesmit, scored, I think, 13 points tonight, had a good game. Corral shot 75%. And, he went up strong tonight. He had a huge dunk in the first half. I think it was the first half. And then he played.
And he had swagger off of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we've been saying that. He's 7 feet tall, act like it. And he played like it tonight. He also contributed with 7 assists, which is a great number for him. And, Davis, my last comment here about Jordan Davis, he made a couple big shots, but he also missed a couple of bad ones and one went on the back of the rim. I just feel like Jordan Davis needs to play with more confidence because he can put the ball on the floor. He's quick. He can penetrate, but he needs the confidence to do that. I don't necessarily want him to be posting up and just shooting threes. I want Connor to do that. But I just feel like Davis can be a lot better, and he is better. He needs confidence, and I feel like he doesn't play with confidence. And when he does, you see him driving in there, he makes moves. He can manufacture his own shots sometimes, but he needs to play more confident.
I don't disagree with that at all. And I felt they made the right choice having him out on the court at the end of the game when we were up 5. Now, Wisconsin drives me nuts when they get into this and they start burning clock when they're up 5. And it's like, just run your offense. Like if you get down to less than 45 seconds left, then you can start running some clock. Like if you're up multiple possessions with that much time left, if you drain the clock, they may go down and score, but they're still going to have to foul. Like they're not going to foul you with a minute 45 left and you run 30 seconds off. So it's like, what are you doing? All you're doing is making it really hard to get into your sets for a team that does not have a guy that can actually just go and get a shot when they want.
Yeah. It's a good point with that Tyler Wahl issue. I mean, they put it to Tyler Wall's hands and he ran 20 seconds off.
And he's probably the guy I feel more comfortable at taking his man off the bounce. But, man, that is not the team I want him doing that against. Like, there are teams where he's got a definite mismatch with athleticism. Marquette's not that team.
We have to be able to get better shots late in shot clocks. We talk about this a lot. We talked about it. Justin and I were chatting with Scott earlier today, talking about the same thing. It's just your best shot can't be Tyler Wahl taking a 3 or Chucky taking a contested
a step back 3
with two men on him. Like that's not your best shot.
Listen,
you have to be able to do different things, set plays. I don't ever see screens late in the shot clocks. I never see that. Why not? Why are we not trying to move the ball and get people taking open shots?
Tied at 70 with 25 seconds left and it's your ball should not be a throwaway possession. I'm sorry. Totally. Especially in the double bonus. Like it takes one guy reaching or something and you're at the line. You don't even have to be shooting and you're shooting free throws for the win. So just like go downhill, attack. But odds are really good that somebody's going to grab or foul before you go up for the shot anyways.
But here's the problem with that, and this is what I've talked about. Some of that's roster construction. They don't have a guy who can get downhill and attack consistently. I like that. No, what you guys are saying, I agree with. I also don't think you sit and run clock and try to play hero ball. But this roster also misses that dude who can just beat someone off the dribble, get downhill and attack. Unfortunately,
but you can at least try to get Connor open for the screen.
Yeah, no, like I agree. Like you have to keep running your offense, but like it's frustrating. Some of it is roster construction, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I also want to talk something Rajiv and I talked about literally off. I think it might have been after the Kansas loss. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was after the Wake. It was after the Wake loss. again, just because we won by a couple doesn't mean everything's great here. Right?
Oh, no.
Right.
After we lost
same thing. Yeah.
I mean,
I
think this is a double digit. I think. Oh, go ahead.
But no, I was just going to say there's still issues here. And I was just going to say offensively where Marquette is able, just with a little bit of pressure, not even a lot of pressure, to get us to take 15 seconds off our shot clock where we're not even getting into offense. Even in the first half, we're not even trying to run the clock, but we have to find ways to get into offense quicker, cleaner. And one of the things I wanted to point out that I liked a little bit in the second half was Tyler Wahl was starting to initiate more offense. And that's something I've hoped he would do because I think it allows Hepburn to play off ball. And I think Wall's a great passer. So I hope to see more of that. But yeah, not everything's great just because you won a close game, just like not everything's bad because you lost one.
Yeah. I mean, here's my 5,000 foot view on this. If Chucky plays the second half, we probably win by 10. It has more to do with his defense than it does with anything else. I just feel like it would have been harder for them to get into such a run if you have his defense out on the floor.
And his ball handling.
Yeah, and his ball handling for sure.
Like
100%. His decision making with the ball when under pressure is significantly better than anybody else that we have. And Wall is probably second best, and I trust him to bring it up going against his man. I'm not super comfortable with him passing a lot if he's coming up.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was we finally got to see Kamari McGee play a few minutes.
He wasn't terrible.
I was excited when he came in there because I Ryan and I, we talked on our last show, we talked about a lot about him, and he wasn't terrible, but he still wasn't as good as I was really hoping he was going to be. And he still had a couple silly turnovers, but he needs to, the more he plays, the more minutes he gets, I really feel like there's going to be a return there and providing some depth behind Chucky, especially from a ball handling perspective, a speed perspective. But he's just not getting the minutes.
Against a team like Marquette, you can't play Lindsay. You cannot. He's just not a good enough ball handler, and he's not athletic enough. So the guy across from him is probably going to be faster than him, more athletic than him, and he's going to be putting defensive pressure and hounding him. And it's not like he's lanky. So he's not a guy who can kind of just skate by his man because he's got plus size. So you're kind of really put into a bad spot because Marquette's one of those teams. Marquette's effectively what Wisconsin wants to be, which is we want to start getting a bunch of athletes that are roughly the same size. You want those 6'5", 6'6" guys, a lot like Rutgers was last year, that are interchangeable. And we don't have that. We have a lot of guards that are small. We have a couple of guards that are decent size in Davis and Connor, but Connor needs to put on some weight. And then you have a bunch of 6'3" and under guys. And they struggle when they play against a team like this that has length and size and is more athletic than them.
I would say, though, one of the interesting things with this game is we did kind of flip the script, offensive rebounding. This was a game the Badgers dominated there. That Corral had a big part of that. Some of the guards came up big. The other thing I wanted to point out that, I may wrap up here on this one because we got a bunch of comments we want to get to as well. People are now saying, Corral, he's that guy that we thought he could be. He got tougher inside. Honestly, to me, it looked like the same kind of Corral for the most part. He's still not making post moves. This is kind of who he is.
He handled the double team really poorly today.
And that's what I was going to say. The 7 assists were absolutely critical, and he made some great decisions.
And what I would say about is I do want to see him go up strong. That's all I'm asking for him to do. I know you made a good point about him not developing post moves right now, and that's fine. But if he is going to catch the ball in the block, he should be able to go up strong. And he doesn't do that. But today he did, and I like that. You are 7 feet tall. You're big. You're a big. Be a big.
The last thing before you jump onto the other, when Rajiv and I were talking about during the game, we were texting back and forth, and with Chucky out, I went to him like, this feels like a game where we may need Connor to go for 20 or 20 plus. And I'm not sure he's ready for that yet. Like you look at him and he's really good at making shots, but like if we start putting him into a high usage standpoint, it's like you're kind of waiting for a few more of those errors to kind of creep out when he starts touching the ball more. And it's like, I'm kind of okay with him not getting a ton of looks at this point in the season. Like 2 months from now, I might feel better. Not quite there yet.
And defenses are keying on him right now. I mean, every time he's anywhere on the perimeter, he's at the top of the scouting report. He's getting his shots are just going to get tougher and tougher.
Did you hear that timeout they had during the game? One of the players from Marquette was screaming, 3 is going to shoot, not 4.
Which, by the way, though, this is where the ecosystem of basketball comes into play, right? So coaches talk about gravity all the time, and he's now pulling defenders with him. When you can see it, especially in the screening action, when he goes over a screen, now people are chasing him. And what that does is it opens up slips. It opens up passes to the weak side. So even him not getting those shots, the attention and gravity that he's generating defensively creates looks for other people, which creates value in him being on the court, even if he's not shooting.
Yeah. Wisconsin desperately needs that.
He creates space for others, which that's a big deal in basketball. We haven't had space creators for enough.
It's a big deal for Wisconsin. A team that really struggles to create it.
All right, let's take a quick break here because we do got to get our other breaks in here, and then we have a bunch of comments we got to get to that I want to get to. Not that we got to get to. I don't want to make it feel like a chore because it's not. I really enjoy that part of what we do. So take a quick break here. Take a word from our sponsors. Then we're going to get back to a bunch of comments both on Jim Leonhard and on the basketball game. I'm going to kick most of that to Rajiv and Justin, just let them go to town on it. All right, coming back to Locked On Badgers, really appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's take some comments. And we got a mix here from Jim Leonhard to the basketball game to the football program in general, the defensive staff. And again, if you don't get your question up here, a lot of times we get multitudes of the same type of question. So just bear that in mind. And some of it's just my lack of time management. So it is what it is on that one. That one's not getting better. Let's start here with Bryce Tolfree, who's been a fan of the show for a long time. And I'm going to hit these kind of alternate them. So Rajiv, I'm going to give this one to you, okay? Bryce Tolfree, McIntosh needs to help him fix. He's talking about Greg Gard, not having enough depth. Oh, wait, hold on. I hit the wrong comment. My bad. Let me go back to this one. Here it is. Bryce Tolfree says, fortunate win. I will take it. Gard is a great coach, but a terrible recruiter. Why do I say that? Because to win with basically no bench, he has to be. So thoughts on this one? Because this is a hot take. And Bryce is a guy that's been a big fan of the show, by the way. So if you disagree, be gentle.
I feel like I think Justin should take this as he's much more tapped into the recruiting side.
Okay. Yeah, Justin.
From a basketball standpoint, I would say we did have a couple of really lean years there for a little bit, but we're also missing a player who we expected to be here for 4 years, who is now playing in the NBA. So this is what happens when your most productive player leaves a couple of years early and you can't backfill. Teams like Wisconsin aren't going to be able to do that ever. We're not going to just replace a 20-point per game scorer with somebody who's just going to slide comfortably into that spot and then have somebody fill behind him who's just ready to go. Now, we are showing glimpses of being able to fill quality parts and moving forward. And I think it will get much better as the years go on. This year is going to be, look at it this way. Klesmet was not a traditional recruit, but he is a very good recruit. They pulled him in. He has been everything they've needed out of that spot, and he doesn't have ego. And that's a big deal. Finding somebody who's going to buy in and play that gritty on defense and not necessarily look to score the ball constantly is a really hard find. And especially somebody that actually does still have some scoring ability. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's really hard to find a guy like that who's low maintenance and is like, I'll take my shots when they're there and I'm just going to lay off. Like that's a Josh Gasser. We had that guy on the 2015 team. He hit almost everything he touched, and he didn't care if he got 5 shots in a game, and that's it. But it's really hard to build together a team like this. Like our major parts right now, last year, were not ready for prime time. Chucky has taken a step forward. He's not going to shoot like he did today every game, but I think he is a plus shooter. I think Krell is a good player. Like there's not a lot of teams out there that are just loaded with depth unless they have been stacking classes on top of each other. It takes one class to kind of throw off your depth.
And we had a couple of those to your point.
Mm-hmm. And we've been unbalanced too, which hasn't helped.
Mm. All right, Rajiv, let me kick this one to you. From Chris McIntyre. Happy for JL Fickle McIntosh team's all-around win. Should solidify team chemistry and allow the team to move forward more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is really the plus side of this, of Jim Leonhard staying here, because you kind of eliminate a hurdle of having to overcome Jim Leonhard being here and then gone and then having to figure out how to navigate that. So that's done. And like we said before, the discussions had to have happened. I'm sure there is they have a very good plan of talking to the players and making sure everyone understands how things are going to go. This will be a huge help for them. There's very little risk, which we've talked about, but the upside of this is massive. I mean, we would have taken Jim Leonhard and Luke Fickell in a heartbeat together. Any one of us would. And I think absolutely this comment's right. It's going to move the program more forward much quicker than we really could have asked.
It's 100% true. Let's take a couple more quick questions here. I want to hit this one up to you, Justin, coming back to you with another basketball question. Talk about the core going forward here. Asijian, Hepburn, Winter, Yalden. Plus, you're throwing in potentially Blackwell, a couple other pieces here as well. Klesmit's still there.
Yeah. We're going to have a very good plus shooting team. The big thing for them will be develop chemistry and passing. Because if this team is a plus passing team, they won't need to have athletes. They'll be able to just run their offense and have guys coming off screen hitting shots. I think every one of those guys is a plus shooter. Especially, I think the biggest deal is going to be Winter and Yalden being plus shooters as big men who are really going to make it hard to play Wisconsin with traditional bigs. Like if you think of a guy like Zach Edey trying to be pulled out to the perimeter like that, it completely throws your entire defensive scheme into flux. So Wisconsin has a chance where they can effectively play 5 out if they want, coming in a couple years here. And I actually think that the comparisons for Winter to John Lure are pretty adept, but I think he actually is a little more physical than Lure was. Mm-hmm. It might take him a couple years to get there, but the ceiling on him is a very, very athletic, big from a Wisconsin standpoint that we don't normally have. And that's going to be something that's huge for us. And
I would add to that, having those bigs that can shoot like that was a staple of the early Bo Ryan years. And that was so big for us in winning a lot of Big Ten championships. And I'm really excited about Nolan Winter. I love his tape. I just feel like he can put the ball on the floor. He can move very, very nicely with the ball, and he can shoot. Oh, and he's also super tall. I just feel like the plus side is so big for him. Obviously, Yalden's going to be really good. Yeldon or Yalden? I don't know how to properly say
Yeldon.
Yeldon. He's obviously going to be great. Another big, but yeah, I think Winter's ceiling is really high, and I really like him.
One more quick thing on him real quick before we move on. The beauty of him is we watched already this season with Steven Crowell, and we see how wide open his 3-point attempts are. You're going to have a guy like that with Winter who can actually go by his man if they show hard on him, which is something that we haven't had since Frank.
The ceiling is crazy high, in my opinion, going forward. Just because of the shooting. It's almost like Greg Gard saw the team shoot so poorly and said, hold my beer, I'm going to go get 7 shooters. Yes. And that's what he did. Now, it still has to pan out, and I still think this team needs a dynamic wing that can get in the paint. Mm-hmm. But
you can take a chance on a guy like that now.
There's a lot of
say this guy has just got to be a Swiss Army knife like Wahl that can just go out there and do the little things.
Or a Freitag, a guy like that. You had an athlete like that with bounce. That might be the piece. All right, last one here. Then we're going to kind of wrap it up because it's already been 32 minutes. Again, I don't get to every comment, and I apologize. We should just do a show where we just take comments and do questions and answers. In fact, we'll do that. That's on me. Rajiv, let's take this one. Badger and Bournemouth. Next, because I actually circled this one. I wanted to end with this one because it deals with expectations, right? Which I think for Badger fans are now shooting through the roof, getting Fickle, adding Jim Leonhard. He says next year may not be that great, but it'll be the start of big things. I think we all agree it could be the start of big things, but I want you to talk to me about what your expectations are next year now.
I actually have very high expectations now for next year and this is strictly because of the Leonhard stuff. It's still going to depend on the transfer portal. It's still going to depend on who we lose, what decommits we have, who we bring over from Cincinnati, and who comes in from the transfer portal. That's really going to dictate how well we do. But that being said, how can you not be excited about the fact that Jim Leonhard's going to stay on the staff? Now there's that much more continuity in the program. And when you have that kind of continuity, it will bridge the gap and theoretically make that potential down year not as far down. And the excitement that's around the program, it's gonna draw people in. I think it's gonna bring people. I think the transfer portal is gonna help us a lot because Luke Fickle's gonna bring people in, and I think we're gonna lose less with Leonhard staying. And I just feel like there's a lot of people that want to be a part of this now. We're definitely one of the talks of college football as far as coaching jobs, and that's people are hearing what's going on here, and I think there's a lot of excitement building. So I think next year is going to be a little bit better than I had originally thought because Leonhard's staying.
Yeah, I kind of look at it this way, and for me, it's completely player driven. I look at it and I'm like, I have no clue what we're going to look like at quarterback next year. I don't think it's going to be Mertz. I think there's going to be a lot of turnover potentially at certain spots, but I think there's a chance here where we suddenly grab 5 people that end up deciding they want to stay with Fickle as coach and being like, well, hey, Wisconsin's going to give me an even bigger stage. So if Wisconsin some of those recruits that decommitted from Cincinnati, I don't know what his view on that is, but there's a lot of high-end talent that if they chooses to follow him here, that is a nice pickup. They do need to find a quarterback likely from the portal that is somebody that is ready-made to go out there and start, or at least is a dynamic enough player that we can live through some growing pains. Like next year, early season, we have some flexibility where we don't have to be running at 100% on offense, but we have to get a system that is QB friendly and that we can run, with some level of consistency early on.
And the more thing I would say about this is it's interesting because, we've, as all fans, have thought that Leonhard was going to get the job. Most of us did. Okay, so he didn't get the job. We were wrong about that. We all thought that Leonhard was going to leave, and he surprised us, and he's staying. Mm-hmm. So my fear is that the other thing that we all think is going to happen, which is Mertz is not going to be our quarterback next year. I'm worried. That is. Listen.
How dare you?
don't know. I'm not saying
we don't have enough time to get into Graham Mertz on this.
Don't harsh my mellow, man.
I'm a little bit concerned that we're all thinking we're gonna have a new quarterback and we might not.
I can't
listen. That's a fair point.
Situations.
We've been surprised every step of the way.
I will say this. We do not have time to do a full Graham Mertz synopsis here, but Rajiv is dead on. Like we don't know. And Justin, you're also dead on that. So much of next year hinges on a quarterback situation that we don't have fidelity on, right? I would say this, and we got this in the comment as well. Mr. King of Troy, hope your reign is going well. The schedule is pretty easy. There is a easy schedule for a new coach and an established defensive coordinator to ease into. So we're going to do a whole Mertz breakdown. But
I just had to bring it up.
It's a fair point because if we're talking expectations for next year, quarterback is at the crux of that.
Rajiv needling me
out there. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. Really, really do appreciate. Again, we have 160 people watching now. A bunch of comments I didn't get to. Obviously, always love Rajiv and Justin coming on. They make this show incredible with the insight they bring, and they're irreplaceable, quite frankly. So thank you for everyone tuning in. We're going to keep talking to y'all again, probably talking again tomorrow. We're just going to keep the content coming as long as this is a really fluid situation with new coaches and new recruits and the transfer portal, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you so much on Wisconsin, and we'll talk to you later.